Welcome to As-Sahwa's podcast, encouraging revival of the mind and the heart, seeking the truth and standing for what is right in the age of overloaded misinformation. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to As-Sahwa's podcast, Face to Face. And today the topic we'll be discussing is racism. And obviously it's going to go into prejudice, nationalism, and all the other isms related to this topic. And I'll introduce you to our guest, Abdullah Jibril. Welcome, brother. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa barakatuh.
How you doing, brother? You okay?
All is well. Praise Allah.
Alhamdulillah. Brother, we want to discuss the issue of racism. But before we get to the issue of racism, tell me about yourself and where was you born and where you grew up?
Sure. So I'm a London born of African parents, particularly in Nigeria, raised in the UK. Born in South London, raised in East London and Northwest London throughout my middle-aged years. Went to school in Hackney and Islington and so on. So it was quite a mixed area of ethnic groups that I was around.
So you spent most of your youth in what part of London?
My mother moved around, so I was between Hackney and Islington. So we lived in Hackney and I went to school in Islington.
So let me just ask you a question. So you wasn't born Muslim?
No, I wasn't born a Muslim. But you know, Islam says that every child is born upon the fitrah of Islam. So I reverted at the age of 19.
So we'll come back to that. Interesting bit of language you used. You said revert. And I often say both, revert and convert. And I find convert brothers, sisters, they have an issue with using the word revert or convert. Is there a big difference?
For me, I would say I prefer the term revert because I was always God conscious. I've always had the concept of the one God placed in my heart. I believed in it firmly. I stood by it. Although I identified as a Christian, my love for Jesus was nothing like what it was until I became a Muslim. So it was altered, but not really changed. As in, I believed in Christ, I believed in his message, I believed in the higher being of God. But when I altered my religion because of the Islamic perception of Jesus, peace be upon him, I realized I was a Muslim all along. It was just I had false information. And with the right information, I didn't feel like I did much of an adjustment, if you get what I'm saying. So when I say reverted, I've always believed that Allah is Allah.
Right. So just focusing on your reversion or conversion to Islam. Your family Christian background then?
Yeah, my mother is of practicing Christianity. Well, actually, in the wider family back in Nigeria, they're actually a Muslim family. I'm from a large Muslim family, so
okay.
In Nigeria there's mixed cultures of Christians and Muslims intermarrying on a regular basis. It's quite normal.
So what side would you say there is more Muslims, your father's side or your mother's side?
My mother's side was more Muslims.
Right.
In fact, I was given the name Jibril by my grandparents at my birth.
Okay.
Coincidentally, my birth coincided with the third night of Ramadan.
Subhanallah.
Yeah, so I had a lot of digging to find out about my history.
Right.
And since then I realized that I call myself a revert for that reason. It just made sense. That the dua of the grandparents and the heritage and the name, everything just, when Allah answers a supplication, it's going to manifest at some point.
Yeah. I mean, subhanallah, Africa in itself, especially West Africa as well, has massive Islamic history.
Yes.
And that will need many, many podcast sessions. And I only came across that understanding was when I started to come towards the deen. I was around, say, 16, 17. And it was many years after that, while being with the brothers, we would talk about history. We'd go to a lot of halaqat and circles and durus about history. And I was quite surprised to find out that Islam actually conquered and entered Africa at a very early stage. Amongst the khulafa, amongst the rightly guided khulafa, the leaders of Islam. So going back to your event in your life when you became a Muslim, How were you treated by your family?
I'm quite fortunate, to be honest, being the oldest son of my mother. I have 3 other siblings, my sisters. I was respected for my faith and my decision because my grandparents were already Muslim.
Okay.
So it was not new. It was almost like a God-sent message that, you know, he's meant to be a Muslim. Because I remember even prior to that conversion or revert, that from primary school, people told me I was going to be a priest. Because I used to put the fear of God into other kids when we were younger. So I remember one of my teachers, when I put the fear of God into somebody else, I can't remember what he did as a child, but I said, God's going to punish you. So she was like, don't say that, you know. So my character was very much known to be like God-fearing and using God as a way to threaten people. So it wasn't a surprise at all. So my family was quite welcoming and quite relieved that I found a stable path now.
Okay. So you didn't have any issues or problems in terms of you becoming a Muslim in your family? There were no barriers or any excommunication or anything of that nature?
No. As I said, I was very fortunate. I'm the oldest child. I was the strength of my family. My father and my mother have 2 separate lives. So I was there for my mum at a young age. You know, she saw me as somebody honourable and respected. So if I made a decision like that, I was always going to be supported.
Right.
Yeah.
And is your mum still Christian?
She is still Christian, but she's also slightly confused in her ignorance because she believes she comes to the mosque when she will send me hadiths. She will testify that the Prophet Muhammad is the Prophet. She will think that there's 2 paths, and whilst we're trying to explain, myself, my wives, and etc., trying to explain to her, it's almost like she knows best because she's older and she's the mother, so the child can't really teach me anything. So we're still on that dialogue, but it's respectful.
Yeah. So you just said something plural. You said wives. Yes. So how many wives do you have?
Am I allowed to say?
You can indeed. Why not?
More than one, let's say.
Allahu Akbar. And how are you finding that?
It's a beautiful thing. At the same time, it has its challenges. It's not going to be a bed of roses. You have to be very wise, and you have to understand the nature of women particularly. And sometimes, it allows you to reflect that this is your beautiful life, and at the same time, this is your beautiful test that Allah has given to you. So, as the Prophet ﷺ used to do, he would enjoy his days, and when the days wasn't so good, he would abstain in order to reflect, because the bigger goal is the Jannah.
So when you became Muslim at the age of 19, you were living in Hackney?
Yes, I was living in Hackney, yes.
Okay. So before you became Muslim, did you find any hurdles in society because of your background, the colour of your skin, where your parents were from and your grandparents? Did you face racism during that time in Hackney?
I would definitely say there was racism, and I would definitely say there was mixed experiences.
Okay.
I'm quite fortunate, to be honest. I can't deny that. I've had a likable character since I was a young age. When I used to move with my white friends, my black friends would be like, "Why are you moving with the white guy?" Okay. And if I went with too much of the black guys, my parents would say, "Why are you moving with those guys?" Because all they ever did was drugs, alcohol, and party and stuff like that. So there was prejudice from my family, prejudice from my friends. You can never fit into the right circle. And the reason why I say I'm quite fortunate at the time, in my jahiliyyah, Allah allowed me to see a level of wealth and a level of affluence. Not that it was praiseworthy things, but it allowed me to move around different circles. And it allowed me to be liked, but it allowed me to see what cultures and other people went through. There was clear racism. I mean, you couldn't walk past certain parts of Islington. You couldn't go certain parts of West London, like Uxbridge. I remember the famous place called the Trocadero when we used to play the arcade.
Leicester Square, right?
Leicester Square, that's right.
Oh, sorry, no, Piccadilly Circus.
Piccadilly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you come away from there maybe you pick up a couple of girls, you're messing around, chatting, and then another group will see that, oh, that black guy's chatting to these white girls, or he's chatting to these Chinese girls, or whatever it is, and then you just start facing hostility because you're around another group of people. And as a child, you don't really realize what is their problem, you know. But then you start to learn that no, you are the problem because you identify as something.
Right.
And these are people you don't even know. So this was this random experiences that I'd fall into. Another experience I remember going down the Market Road. I don't even know Market Road where they play football.
No.
It's down the Caledonian Road.
Oh right, yes.
Yeah, there was a huge meeting one time. I believe it was a clash of races. It was the English left, right wing against the black Hackney boys.
The National Front, no?
Something like that.
Yeah.
The Adams family, all this kind of like rivalry came to meet the brothers, the black Caribbean, African brothers in this playing field.
Okay.
And, you know, as a young child, I was probably about 13, 14, I can't remember the age, but we were all there to be participant and just to make up the numbers. But these guys came with dogs, Rottweilers, like big dogs, chains,
Wow.
machetes, and my eyes just like, okay, I need to make a version of Hydra somewhere else, you know. So everyone was just scattered, but it was bad. People were hurt, people were injured, people were hospitalized.
Wow.
It was few that carried on for some time, but slowly, I mean, I'm going back 92, 93, 91, is the era. So, I mean, it was few that carried on for some time. I never really ventured down that road, even though my school wasn't far from there. But this is the life back then.
I mean, I'll tell you some of my experiences and stories. I grew up in southeast London, Woolwich, Plumstead area. I was born there, and my parents originally from Pakistan. So my dad, when he came here in 1961, he was in Croydon, and then from Croydon they moved around to Greenwich, and then finally settled in Woolwich. And we used to live in this estate, but it was a weird estate. It was like we had a house, but then across our house there were like blocks of flats and stuff. There was always trouble there. And there was confusion, I could tell. There was confusion. You know, when you're growing up, you're looking at certain people and you think, why would you be with them attacking us, kind of thing. So the mixed race kids always had this identity problem. They didn't know which side to stay on. And our house used to get regularly attacked. They used to smash our window. They would put our window ledge on fire. So I must have been, I don't know, about 6, 7 years old, petrified. And it was banging on our door and trying to smash the window and stuff. And my dad got fed up. And now my dad's not really a kind of person who'd go out there and just fight for the sake of fighting, you know. So I was the youngest in my family. So he got my 2 older brothers. He gave them obviously a wicket each year, coming back from an Asian background. Pops took the cricket bat and he told them, Mom, lock the door. They went out and all I could hear was running, screaming, or God knows what else, right? Now, my dad had told the police of these incidents quite a lot of times beforehand, and they wouldn't come. And the next day, obviously, they came. And my dad was like, oh, you come now, yeah? So it was quite tough for my family, as there was a small non-white community in the area at that time. And there was always clashes going on. Then eventually, they built a mosque, and it was in stages, but it was near a estate, but on the main road. Regularly they used to get the windows smashed and stuff like that. So I grew up in a time where it was quite tense, and my older brothers had it worse than I did. They would always get into racist fights and what have you. And at that time, the BNP, National Front, they were the big boys at that time. Okay, BNP tried to take a political stance, more of a political stance, and the National Front were just thugs, football hooligans. That's all they were. I went to one football match, maybe when I was about 14 years old. West Ham versus Charlton. West Ham versus Charlton. And I didn't know nothing about West Ham. I was all excited. I'm going to go with this youth club, etc. And when we went to this, we came here, right? It was a home game for West Ham. And when we came to this side of the river, it put me off football. I never ever after that went to another match again, ever. You know, all I just saw was, and if I saw any white guys, I just said to myself, they're all a bunch of football hooligans. We were kids, and you had grown men that wanted to beat us up just because we were brown and black and white, and that was worse. They were like, what's a white kid doing with the brown and the black ones, right? And we used to get that quite regular because our group of friends was quite mixed.
Yeah.
And when we used to go from, say, from Woolwich to Thamesmead, now Thamesmead was a rough area. It was a leisure centre, they used to go swimming. They couldn't take it. Why is there a white kid with these black and these brown kids? And regularly used to get chased for the estates, going to school. It was a regular thing. In school was always having trouble with the kids, and you had to get beaten up. You had to stand up for it as well. So we had a lot of those clashes. But what I wanted to ask you was, when you became Muslim, do you remember the first masjid you went to when you became Muslim?
Before I answer that, I was going to just say something about what you said about the kids that you was mixing with.
Sure.
It's funny how kids don't see colour.
Yeah.
Right? If the world was brought up as your parent allowed your white friend and his parent allowed him to mix with you, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about such experiences. But yeah, Islam was a light bulb moment. A light came on in the room. I looked around the world. It's the same room, but I can see better. I'm now directing myself to the mosque by the permission of Allah and the guidance. And I continue to have that positivity in my eyes. I couldn't see racism. I didn't want to see it. But sometimes you go to certain masjids, and because of their own prejudice towards maybe black people or maybe other ethnic groups, they're not so welcoming. I prayed in a few places, one of them being the Turkish mosque down the road. Azizia. I prayed in...
Was that the first one you went to when you became a Muslim? Do you remember?
No, the first one I went to, I can't remember where I was going during I think it's the one on Leighton High Road.
Okay, Masjid Tawheed maybe.
The first one you come across when you get through Leabridge Road.
Oh, okay, right. I think I know.
On the main road.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it, but it was very somber, kind of like no one spoke to you. Like you walked in, like I thought there's an intro about me becoming a Muslim. I'm going to meet all these people. So I went there to pray. It's like, no, you're on your own here, bro.
Like Pakistanis majority.
Yeah, mainly Pakistani, Southern Asian groups, and the worst experience that I had was just praying next to a brother. And obviously in Islam, when Muslims pray, shoulder to shoulder, feet to feet. Yeah. So I was shoulder to shoulder, but the feet, I'm concentrating on trying to put my feet next to another brother, but he's moving his feet away from me. Yeah. So before I end up doing the splits, I'm like, it's happening on both sides. So I'm trying to get the message that they're not aware that you're supposed to join the ranks. Yeah. So I took it as ignorance. And it's normally the case with ignorance, because people, sometimes when you're brought up into something, you're not able to read or be privileged enough to understand why it is you've been given this gift. And Islam is a gift, so some of us who come into it, we read about it, we understand it better. And I felt like at the time, there's a lot of ignorance in the community, and there still is. Yeah. But can I call it racism? I wouldn't say personally I felt it was racism. I just think they're prejudice. Because although they embrace you as a Muslim, oh, welcome, brother, the brotherhood stays there sometimes. And sometimes it's gone far beyond that. I've previously married into a Pakistani culture. I have a son from that culture. Sure. I've been, more than welcomed in Islam into many, many cultures. Deeply into cultures, So I know the language, I know the food, I know some of the thinking and behavior pattern just from the brothers who introduced me. And I felt very privileged as a person. I can definitely not sit here and feel like some people haven't broken those barriers when they have. And then you can look a handful of times where you can say, you know what, some people are very ignorant. And I think with the Muslims, there's more prejudice towards each other than it is racism, because they have to accept you, because Allah has accepted you. Good point. They have to accept you, but they don't understand you. And hence, if you get into a debate with maybe Pakistani uncle and a black brother because he wants to marry your daughter. Uncle's trying to say to her, look, we've got our culture, he's got his culture. He's not. It doesn't mean he's being racist. Some of them can be racist, but he's trying to understand that it might not necessarily work because of culture and because of differences. And sometimes people want to preserve their heritage, you know. And there's nothing wrong with trying to preserve your heritage, but it's just about understanding that sometimes when you learn better about other cultures, those barriers can be broken, and then we can understand whether is it racism or is it prejudice, etc.
Yeah, it's a good point, because some of the classical ulama have spoken about this issue of understanding, intermarrying, and understanding cultures as well. You know, they use the term urf to understand, you know, the reality of that land, the people, the language, the clothing, everything. And you're right. You know, it's a case of understanding their culture, as long as that culture is not negating the Sharia and imposing anything haram, then it's all good, right? Yeah. But you're right. I mean, again, when I was growing up, 16, 17, 18, my life changed in a way where I came across different types of brothers from different groups. And one of those groups was Hizb ut-Tahrir. Hizb ut-Tahrir during that time, they were on fire. They were all in the universities, debates and what have you. And so they were in my local area, and I used to attend their circles. And they were always, you know, they were quite political. And I'd be like looking at them thinking, what kind of Islam are they talking about? I thought, never heard the Imam Sahib sitting on the minbar speaking about these things. So I started to hang around with them. And one thing they really pushed was, there is no nationalism in Islam. Okay, when we you know, they kind of drummed it in your heads. When you see a guy, you see him as Muslim or non-Muslim, okay? And you be just, right? You say hello, you give salam, whatever it is, okay? But that thing of, I'm from this country, that country, because borders are just all, they're nothing. They've been drawn up, right? And we had a good group of mixed brothers from different ethnic backgrounds, different countries, and we used to love it. We used to always be together. And what would happen is one Dumbo would always crack a stupid joke, and it'd go down that racist stroke nationalistic side. And you would see the anger between the brothers, that why are you doing this? Why are you bringing this up? And it'll be like, bro, it's just a joke. And it's like, no, because this raises the issue of Jahiliyyah and and inside you, and it does.
So in discord as well,
Yeah, that's right. And it causes issues and problems. And I witnessed a lot of that, where there were many West Indian brothers becoming Muslim big time in the 90s, okay? And depending where they were, and it happened to me, they were in South Asian communities. And some of them would go to approach the daughters, right? And the first thing they would say is, no, you're black. That's it, yeah? And the brothers would not understand it. They're like, well, we're Muslim though. We become Muslim. And this is why we become Muslim. And they couldn't get it. They couldn't understand. There would be a lot of clashes between those individuals and the elderly and what have you. So a lot of the brothers, what they started doing some talks and lectures and conferences on the issue of racism, nationalism, and that kind of thing. And I think this concept, again, it's a massive topic, and we would have to come back to it, because we have to divide it into racism, nationalism, tribalism. Because don't forget, you had many great Sahaba who were named after from where they came, like, for example, Bilal al-Habashi, Shu'aib al-Rumi. And then, you know, as I was growing up, I used to think, why did they have these names? Because we're against nationalism. But it was, look, and it showed the diversity of the Muslims, where they're from. Okay, so I think there's nothing wrong with being proud of where you come from originally, or where you come from. If someone says, I'm British, but they're brown or they're black, and they're originally one generation or two generation here, okay, it's like, now, after 3-4 generations, my children, my grandchildren, they're going to be diverse. They're going to mix into other cultures and what have you. Then they're going to lose. Then what they're going to call themselves? They're going to call themselves, like, for example, now my son-in-law is Turkish. So what those children, languages and what, they're going to adopt English, because this is where they live.
Yeah, I think what Islam has definitely done and made it apparent is that people can come from different backgrounds and merge as a community, which is the whole point of the brotherhood of Islam. Just going back to some of the things you mentioned, you know, it is very possible that some of the uncles who rejected those black brothers were just lacking ignorance, and they were maybe cautious or being fearful, because remember, they've come to a foreign land to meet these people.
Yeah, that's right.
You understand? They themselves have come from a particular place, so everything here is foreign to them.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it was a black brother or a white brother. It's like we're amongst foreigners as well. So, you know, the only thing that's going to change that is what is changing it already, which is Islam.
Yeah.
Islam is bringing unity. Islam is bringing a new face. Islam is bringing more people to the faith by the permission of Allah, and this is by the will of Allah. Allah will complete the light of Islam, and He will bring new people, irrespective of who hates it, irrespective of who doesn't practice it or who is ignorant about it. There will be newcomers to the faith. This is how it's been for the 1400 years. You know, Allah revives His religion with whom He wills.
Yeah.
You know, look at the staunchest enemy of Fir'aun was in his own house. Yeah, and sometimes you have the white converts of this country speaking up for Islam, speaking up on issues of Palestine.
Yep.
You know, because you're dealing with God. So since you're dealing with God, He can turn the tables round, and the norm becomes abnormal because it's God. So hence people will learn that Allah is the one who guides the hearts. Allah is the one who revives the hearts. Allah is the one who changes the hearts. So them same uncles now may learn after a period of time, through age, through wisdom, through knowledge, that you know what, you know, I was in a different place, but where sons like me and you into marrying to faith can show them, listen, look, this is Islam. You know, you just wasn't aware this was Islam, and not taking that step to bring someone into your culture is not necessarily a bad thing, so long as you don't hate them.
Yeah.
For their ethnic group.
Yeah.
But you just might just be protecting your, you know, the honor of your legacy.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to preserve your genealogy or whatever it is that you're trying to protect, you know, all your children to be from Pakistan or from African culture, whatever it is. They have the right to do so. You know, in my opinion, they have the right to do so. So as long as you're not hating upon others, I don't see the problem with that. But Allah knows best.
No, alhamdulillah. I mean, you're spot on. You know, it's a case of when those days happen where people start celebrating Independence Day. So in my family, we don't really celebrate Pakistan Independence Day, and that's because of really what connection is there with Pakistan now, for example.
Yeah.
And you can see the chaos politically, economically Pakistan is in. So we would ask the question, it doesn't seem very free if they're still in debt with IMF after so many years, right? What is the greatness of a land in order to celebrate the independence? Because Pakistan, they say in Urdu, Pakistan ka maana kya? La ilaha illallah. What is the meaning of Pakistan? La ilaha illallah. This is a history in itself and another podcast in itself, where really and truly the purpose of Pakistan was supposed to be the homeland of the Muslims. That was supposed to be the purpose. And even when you look into their constitution, it mentions about the constitution is based upon Quran and Sunnah, but it's hardly there anyway. It's another thing to discuss about. But really and truly, you look at that and you think to yourself, well, everyone's got a flag, everyone picks up a flag, and they're all doing all sorts of things. But when someone's insulting Islam, no one's ready to pick up the flag of Islam. Yeah.
But that, what you just said, that's the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest disease that entered humanity was having flags.
Yeah.
Because it's easy to conquer people, divide and conquer. Everyone picks up their representation of their flag, you know, and whether it be at sports or whether it be at some sort of competition, it's easy to merge that you're already dividing the lines of people within the same family, within the same household. Your wife might be with a different ethnic group, she's got a flag, your son's got a flag. You know, before you know it, your mind is deviating from the unity that Islam's trying to bring because of these flags. And one must stay clear from these, what we call As-Sahwa, nationalism, because this is not from Islam whatsoever. Islam rejects all of this stuff. And if only the way forward was more clearer for the Muslims, then the Ummah will have something to follow. But at the moment, we have a lot of internal fighting because people still believe in nationalism. But once the way is clear that we have to be unite on that kalima, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadan Rasulullah, and if we don't do that, we forever have this internal division.
There's a verse in the Quran which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that He has divided people into tribes and nations, right? And exactly, ta'arafu meaning to know one another, and live amongst one another. So when we used to hear that as younger, it used to be confusion. It's like, why would Allah divide us then? Okay, and this is what's caused the issues. But that's the beauty of being human being.
Allah tells us,
yeah,
Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum, that the best amongst those people who have been created in different forms of colours and races is the one who has the most God consciousness.
Yeah.
So division of race and colour is to be identified. Everybody has a culture, everybody has a language, so on and so forth. There's differences. Imagine everybody was black, or everybody was Chinese, or everybody was white. Just one whole race. But Allah showed His diversity because Allah is Al-Khaliq. He's a creator. He does what He wishes. And He created language, and He created variation, and He created different foods. Even though the essence of food is the same, but we all cook differently, etc. It's just for identification purposes. But the best of those people are God-conscious people, humanitarians, people who love humanity, people who are aware that there's a day of assembly to come. And that's what we have to, spread that message more than anything else. But a lot of people do have that natural disposition of being humanitarian. You see the crowds in the streets of London, you see people coming out. Half of those people are almost getting the message that you could become a Muslim if only you knew what the message was trying to say to you.
Yeah.
But you're not getting no reward because you're just doing it off your back when you feel like it. But do it for the sake of Allah, and then Allah will bring you His guidance. So a lot of people do have the vision to eradicate these things, but what keeps it going is these media propagandas, the rise of voices of right-wing extremism, so on and so forth. They are causing divisions, and people was reminding us in our society, the Muslims, the Muslims. So
on that note, as you just mentioned, on that note, yesterday was a massive demonstration.
Yeah.
On the news it said thousands and thousands. I don't know, there were thousands, but the way it's exaggerated in terms of numbers. And I saw something really strange in the crowd. So lots of British flags, but I saw a lot of Israeli flags. And I thought to myself, wow, back in the 90s, National Front used to make an issue about Jews. The Jews are controlling the media, the Jews are controlling the money, we got to do something about these people. And today we find Zionists and the far right are equally on the same stage, sharing the same stage. And then I thought to myself, you know what? It's the ideology. They both have a very racist ideology. Okay, so you're right. We can see even Nigel Farage. The other day he made a mention of 46% of Muslims support Hamas in one of the surveys. Where's the survey? What survey? By the way, Hamas is a proscribed terrorist organization. So if you're doing a survey to say, I support them, you can get all that 46% of Muslim population arrested if you want. But you're right. You see it being used in politics a lot. And a lot of it is aimed towards the immigrants. Now, right now, a lot of the immigrants in the West are Muslim, happen to be Muslim.
Yeah.
Okay. So you can see that now. It's not just anti-immigrant, but it's anti-Muslim, anti-Islam. And one of those things Nigel was saying was, Muslims, they're not a part of our society. And then he changed it. He said, when the West Indians came back in the 50s and the 60s, we had something to relate with them, which obviously was the pub. That was the only thing that they could relate with them, right? So now we're seeing that political move upon Muslims, anti-Muslim, hatred as well. And it's gonna get worse. But we as Muslims have to be prepared, compared to what like our forefathers were prepared back in the 60s, 70s and the 80s. So we have to be prepared now.
I mean, just on the point that you touched on politics, there's no surprises. I mean, a lot of it comes down to fear of something they can't control. They can't control the swamps of people from their own societies, own cultures, own homes, finding a beautiful message in Islam. They can't control that. They can't control the unity of Islam. They can't control the beauty of the world movement of Islam. That's because they don't know what they're dealing with. They know its history, they know its capability, they know its strength, but they don't know how they can stop it. So they're nervous, they're panicking, and they have the bigger sheikh, the shaitan, who is misleading them constantly, trying to insinuate them into fabricating things against the Muslims. The Muslims are just peaceful, loving people. Any peaceful, loving person can be a Muslim if Allah guides them. But they have chose the path of the opposition of Allah. So, I mean, it only comes with its consequences when you deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, whoever's gone to war with Allah and succeeded, show me them. History has always mentioned that many have come against Allah and they've perished. Nations have perished. So we don't have to do anything per se. You know, the order of Allah will be fulfilled. You know, Allah says, وَكَانَ وَعْدَ اللَّهِ مَفْعُولًا, that the promise of Allah will be fulfilled. There's nothing that's going to change that. And we Muslims stand humbly knowing that, you know, whether we participate or don't participate, we're going to perish with time and the order of Allah will be fulfilled no matter what. So moving on from that, I see that they're fearful people. They have a right to be fearful because Allah has threatened them, and Allah threatens the whole of mankind. Yeah, Allah says, "Ya ayyuhan nas ittaqu rabbakum." You know, all mankind, fear your Lord. So we say sami'na wa ata'na. We listen and we obey. We go towards the masjid. We help humanity. We love humanity. We help the people. But those who don't listen and obey, you know, you deal with God. Deal with His consequences. Deal with what He has prescribed for you. And the rest will be history. The rest will become on the Day of Judgment. There are many who have solutions for this problem of racism. But we say, look, Islam has brought solutions for everything. You know, we love for our brother what we love for ourselves. You know, we cannot discriminate between people because of colour. But there will forever be people like this who divide, who need to maybe take public purses to justify their spending, create fear. You know, fear amongst people creates a need for security, a need for me to take your money legitimately. You know, I need to fear you because you need to, you know, be scared of the Muslims. But, you know, you're going down the road, you shop with Muslims, you spend with them every day, and, you know, you see nothing but peace. You just, your mind is like, what's going on? You know, so I can understand where they're coming from, but fortunately for us, we're not on that side of the fence being manipulated. We're the guided ones. So we praise Allah, we say alhamdulillah. We're not on that side of the fence, but we can see clearly with vision that these are all amal shaitan. You know, shaitan is, and Allah says, وَكَانَ كَيْدُ شَيْطَانُ ضَعِيفٌ, that verily the plot of Satan is weak. He only inspires people with these false inspirations, but really, when he comes to the crunch, he's going to flee himself. So we ask Allah to give us thabat, firmness and steadfastness. You know, there's many persecutions in the world right now. Islam does need Muslims to wake up and stand up for justice in many places, not only Palestine, but you know, you got racism against Sudanese. You know, they're massacring each other, and these are two of same ethnic groups, but they're finding something to be discriminated over each other about. You know, and it's a human problem. It's a human problem, and it needs a godly solution because Allah has already given it to us, but to implement it is.
You're right. I mean, a lot of the political situation, like you mentioned, Sudan, they turn it around into a race tribal issue, and we've seen it many times in Africa.
Yeah, even Somalis.
Yeah, exactly. And you see that there was. You just remind me of something. There was one Somali brother, and one day I was talking to him. I said, "Oh, brother, where are you from?" And he said, "I'm from." He said, "I'm from Somalia." And, "Oh, okay. Somalia in Africa." I was young then, He looked at me in this strange, weird face and he said, Somalia. And I said, yeah, it's in Africa. And he wouldn't admit it was in Africa. And I just said to myself, what's about this guy, yeah? I said, brother, it's like, Algeria, Tunisia, it's in Africa, North Africa. You're in East Africa. He just couldn't get it. Then he said, I'm Arab. And I went, okay, I'll accept if you're Arab. I was so confused. I was like, why can't you just say? So, as a kid growing up, I got so fed up with this question of where you're from, where you're not, etc. So, and hanging around with the right type of brothers, want to avoid that nationalism. So, I know what people are asking me, but I'd on purpose just say, when they ask me where you're from, I'd say, my parents are from Pakistan, but I was born here. And they go, oh, so you're Pakistani? I said, no.
They concluded for you.
Yeah. So there was one Egyptian uncle, I used to get on his nerves all the time. And then one day he said to me, he was just having this conversation, he said, where are you from? I said, I was born here. He looked at me like this. And I did it on purpose.
Like, where are you really from?
Yeah.
That's what I say.
He said, like this, like as in skin, yeah? And I said, what?
Yeah.
So then he goes, where's your father from? I said, Pakistan. He goes, Anta Pakistani. I said, no, I'm not Pakistani, I'm British. He goes, yeah, akhi, we are all British. Meaning the passport, yeah? So I was just trying to explain to him, look, I don't see it, why are you making such a big deal? So for certain people, it is a big thing, right? And I agitated a lot of people on this issue because I thought to myself, I was doing something right. What is wrong is for someone to look down upon someone because of their color, their skin, or the country they come from.
Of course.
There's no doubt about that, right? Yeah.
And can I just touch on that? The primary reason for that, first of all, we're all human beings. So we're here for the same purpose. Some of us, alhamdulillah, we know what that purpose is to worship Allah. Some of us don't know that, but we're here for the same purpose. Second thing is, I never chose my skin color. I never chose my parents. I never chose my time of birth or my time of death, whenever it occurs. So there's a lot of things that's not within our control. Why should you be hated for those things? It doesn't warrant to be hated for those things. And look, a man can sleep with a woman of any race, of any background, you still produce a beautiful human being. People love their children all over the world. People have mixed marriages all over the world. Why should that thing be a thing of hatred? It doesn't make any sense. Yeah, because in the beauty side of it, those who choose to be intermarried with interracial marriages, they find it beautiful. But those who don't like it, they hate you for it. Which, if you look at the foundation, what's the reason to hate? There's no reason to hate for that. Life is a beautiful thing, and it's given to you beyond your own will, beyond your own capability. So embrace it, learn about it, learn why you're here, and learn about definitely where you're going, and that might change your perception. And that's for those who don't know what they're here for.
Yeah, you're right. I suppose there's a couple of things here, and we'll be ending soon the session. One, I think it's you mentioned already ignorance of general masses, and two is the lack of Islamic education for us as a Muslim community. Okay. And a third thing I would put down on a human level, it comes down to really people are not living in a diverse, I don't mean community, I mean diverse environment, if that's the right
you
way.
mean here in
the UK, for example, now.
I think it's more diverse now.
Yes. So if I look at my friends now, those brothers that are close to me, then I'm just thinking, Pakistani, Algerian, etc., etc. That's a pretty good mix. East African, etc. And we can meet together. We can, have a good meal and enjoy each other's company. But there's always a line that's drawn between, even with us as well. Like I said, that jahiliyyah comes up, the ignorance comes up, and they'll crack a stupid joke, and people get offended. Okay, there'll be discussion in WhatsApp groups, right? That's the big danger at the moment. Somebody will mention something, and they'll go into one, and they'll say, "Why are you making it into this issue or that issue?" And it's like, "Oh, easy. I'm just trying to make a point here." And sometimes text, words, sentences can make things worse, even with the good intention, because you're not talking to each other.
Well, I think just on that information you've just given, first of all, having a diverse brotherhood around you is beautiful. You know, that's praiseworthy, and that's unity. Where people get too sensitive sometimes, and people do cross lines, they should learn about each other's characters, because my surroundings are diverse, and if my white brother said something about black people, I'm not going to get offended. I understand his nature, you know, so there might be a level of sensitivity around that. And sometimes what happens is people are too sensitive, yeah? That the same joke can be made by someone of the same race, but you don't accept it.
Precisely.
Yeah, and that's unfair.
Precisely.
Because you need to understand that Islam came with something different. What was it? Inna a'malu bin niyyah. That actions are judged by what you intend. So what people say may not necessarily be harmful because of the intention behind it. Yeah, I'm not saying it's correct. They should check the person they're talking to. It shouldn't happen more than one time for you to know that whether that person is tolerant or not. You should know the people you're dealing with. And if it continues to happen, then obviously that person is being foolish, as in you're being insensitive. You know, you're not paying attention to the brothers around you and how they feel. Because once you say that these are my circle, that circle should be tight. You know, and hence why I keep the same group of friends. But I, even then, I must admit, I'm quite a conscious person when I speak. So I take care of people's feelings, except when I'm angry, then obviously anything can come out of my mouth. You know, anything can fly out the mouth. And even then, you know, you're going to regret things that you've said, you know. So we ask Allah for guidance.
I mean, do you find when it comes to the Football World Cup, amongst brothers, you see this strange nationalism?
Yeah,
right.
Let's come together and wear our different shirts.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, but in the last World Cup, obviously, you saw this this weird backing of Morocco, right? And that was within the Muslim community. It became a Muslim thing.
That's probably because there was the only Muslim team left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not an accident. So it might become a Muslim thing because of a strategic moment that they're Muslims and they're in the World Cup quarterfinals. Okay, let's back them. I get it, but Islam has nothing to do with these things. Islam is far from this. Yeah. Allah says, "Alhaakum takathur hatta zurtum maqabir." That rivalry and competition keep you distracted. Hatta zurtum maqabir, until you visit the graves. ثم كلا سوف تعلمون, and only then you will come to know. ثم كلا سوف تعلمون, and then you will really come to know. And the verse goes on. So we will come to know the reality of this life in the grave. So these foolish competitions that mankind has made for us to divert us from the path of Allah, Allah says that leave them, because you will really come to know the reality of this life. So one should be fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, number one. Number two, the knowledge that Islam has provided is sufficient. You know, that is sufficient. You know, being divided amongst the earthly things, I say, or dunya things. This is nothing but misguidance, and we ask Allah for guidance, inshallah.
I mean, Jazakallah khair. Really appreciate you being here with us today, and really enjoyed. I really have enjoyed the discussion. I mean, and inshallah, you will be guest, I'm sure now, with us many times. There are many topics to discuss, and to take the right information for everyone else. And as the audience knows, we're back in obviously Masjid Ramadan, and just to remind everyone. This masjid has been here since 1977, and right now they need our help as a community to be participating, to be participants at the masjid here, and obviously towards donating and the maintenance of the masjid as well. So if you're in the local area in Hackney, Dalston, come down, visit the masjid, be a part of what is going on here. With that, Abdullah, Jazakallahu khair for your time.